am just so impressed by all of these pieces, and I really love seeing, like again, there are certain overlaps I'm going to point out, but it's so exciting to just see a variety of methods, a variety of cameras used, a variety of scope of people spoken to, of aloneness, like just through this work, and knowing that you guys are just around and we get to talk to you and hang out with you is like really exciting to me. So I'm going to be I'm nervous. No. I think what I like to do is I want to hear all your voices like right away, so we can all kind of like see who's up on the stage. And I'll just go down the line. If you could talk about how the project got started for you. And Selina, I know you've got 3 different pieces, so I think for you it might be a little bit more of like, how does your studio practice like leap into all these different forms? But yeah, let's just some background on like how this piece came to you when it did.
So my piece was super experimental from the start. I was in the midst of producing, I think it was like year 5 of a documentary that ended up taking 11 years, and it was complicated and just on multiple levels it was complicated. And I was headed to San Francisco to do work on that project, and I knew I was going to see my dad, and I had this strange relationship with him where I would meet him out at a restaurant because he was married to somebody who didn't really accept any of his kids in his life. And so I was like, I don't really want to meet at a restaurant and have a meal. That just seems, so sort of sad. And I knew he had this like weird habit, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, I'm going to have a camera with me. Maybe I'll just spend the day like walking around with you and filming, and who knows what'll happen with it. And it was interesting because I think he liked that I was taking his habit seriously, and I, for the first time, was like, oh, he's kind of taking me seriously too. Like the whole thing with the vest. It was like, oh, he thinks somebody's actually going to watch this one day. That's kind of cool. Like maybe, yeah, and here you are, 12 years later. So it was a fun morning, afternoon, and then I sat on the tapes for 11 years, and I can talk about that later. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I have so many questions.
Yeah, I know.
It was interesting seeing these 3 pieces together because they sort of show the breadth of my work. Most of my work takes place within a fine art context. And Woven, which is the piece on the Merchandise Mart, was kind of the first piece that brought me into public art. And since then, this was in 2021, since then I've really focused very much on having sort of animation, abstract animation mostly, within public spaces, in lobbies, and at the airport there's a piece that's permanently installed. And it's been a really interesting thing for me, just in thinking about where the work can be, which is very contingent also that we're just in a time now that there's so many screens everywhere that need content, which has completely changed how I work. So I would say up until then, most of my work has really been in galleries and museums. That's kind of the primary space that I show in. Not even festivals so much, because most of the work is loop-based.
Yeah.
And so in the last 5 years, it's really changed into being mostly public screens. And then the piece about my father, that is a very different piece. It's sort of like very personal, but really also thinking about the idea of documenting something so intimate in this kind of idiosyncratic way that is my art form. So it's a documentation, but it's also not a documentation. It's documentation of him and of myself and of our relationship. And then thinking, what is the medium that I work in? Animation, stop motion in particular for me is something that interests me primarily because of the way that it brings things to life. Like, that's what I care about. It's really not, it's, I think, specifically stop motion with objects. And so being able to go into a space that I knew was going to be empty afterwards and kind of creating this document of it was a really touching and kind of crazy thing to do. Because I was just in there for 3 days, animating all day long. Without a plan, it's completely improvised. So it's like, and then the music video is something that I actually don't do very often, primarily because I like to have creative control. And so when you make a music video, you are responsible towards somebody else, and they need to be able, I mean, it's going to be in their name. And I don't really like people telling me how to do my stuff. So it doesn't work very well for music videos. But this was a very special situation for a band that I really like, but I'm also married to a member of the band, which makes it extra complex.
He owes you, so.
But then also, it's actually, I shoot, so the music video is actually a zoomed in version of a film that is way bigger, the frame. And so I generally shoot at a super, super high resolution, and my films are very dense and very wide, used for installations. And so I could take that film that's an installation that's actually opening next week in Chicago.
Nice.
So
Oh, where will it be?
at Tusk,
Oh, cool.
which is in Logan Square. But I can just zoom in around in the video, and so then the question of money doesn't become so big, because one of the problems with music videos, really, for the kind of work that I do, is the film that the tortoise video comes from is a 2-minute video that took me 18 months to animate.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just no way to pay me unless I can have multiple uses for things.
It's a salary. It's a
Yeah, and so that sort of high resolution way of shooting is actually really, it's been very interesting because it allows me to use the films in many different ways.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to say about your public art is you got to be careful because someone might come around with a heavy-duty spray.
I know, right?
So be careful about putting art.
I mean, it's
out in
funny because
public.
actually one of my first pieces, remind me of your father, was where I went and I made, I was always a little too chicken to make graffiti, but I really like it. So I
So
shot
do I.
all over through Chicago and I animated into the video graffitis.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that overlap in a second. Raphael, how did this project, you told me a little bit earlier that it came to you.
Came to me. So a colleague of mine, Kiana Mariah Ross, at Northwestern, was doing some research just around what was happening in the schools. And so it got to a place where she was like, I kind of like what I'm writing. You know, this is going to be a written thing. She's like, what if I did like a little video? And I'm like, okay, I can help you with a little video, right? And so as we get into some of the depths of the research and starting to meet the people, I'm like, this is a movie. This is more than just something little and small that you show at one of your talks. Like, no, this is an actual film. And so lucky for us, we were able to find some additional funding through the university, through some grants and some other things. And so we were able to kind of take what was going to be like a 5-minute piece and just expand it and make it as big as we possibly kind of could within the bounds of the story itself. But we knew we had to hurry up. You see, we have some older, members. I'm like, let's just get to it. And so we were, God bless her. We were able to capture, the person who kind of led the charge in this work, probably about a month before she passed. So like even when we did our big screening, there she wasn't there, and it was just like, God. So.
And did the school open
So
while you were working on it?
They broke ground, and here's the other part of this is, okay, yes, it broke ground. Yes, we changed. Superintendents changed, and so there's all this kind of flux. So even by the time we screened it, so much had already happened that the story, had changed. And so we sought out to continue and to make this potentially a series. Like maybe this is episode 1, maybe this is episode, whatever. And let's keep going and let's follow the build out of the school as things are changing, because this is still an ongoing thing. And then because Northwestern about a year ago was under the scope of the administration, a lot of that funding got pulled, and so we had to.
Oh, DEI.
Yeah. It's like, well, you're talking about black people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that really just made us make a hard stop on the project and just really focus on what it was that we had. So yeah, I mean it caught my attention for a number of reasons. I mentioned this earlier. I grew up in the awesome area of Chicago, so like looking across the street at Oak Park and all the resources and all the things where we spent our money there. We went to the parks there. And so like just understanding like Austin as this barrier of segregation and resources, you know, then later in life as a teenager moving to the south suburbs of Matson, Illinois. Very diverse when we first moved there. It was like, yes, this is great. But by the time I graduated high school, Tom Brokaw was there doing a Dateline special on white flight. So I've always had this really interesting experience and lived experience rather of, you know, what does it take to make this, you know, so-called, you know, multiracial democratic society, you know, like, so this is like another part of that story in a way that I just didn't expect. And I don't think a lot of people expect it. When we talk about desegregation, it's like, oh, hooray, but.
Right. Well, now we're in a world of like, you know, we're hiding the facts of whether it's slavery or civil rights or something. We're hiding them, and it's like, no, we haven't even really discussed all of it yet.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't really talked about like what's negative about. Maybe maybe there's some good stories or interesting stories about abolitionists who are bad people. You know what I mean? Like the complex history of this all is like it's so important to me, and I think that's what's really nice to see in this particular film. And Evanston is just such a specific situation too. Yeah. So it's nice to have it grounded there, and it actually takes me back to Fennell's film about her father, where it's like, oh, it's so cute and it's so funny, right? It's like there's like these really great little edits where you're just like, there's a dog. He doesn't like dogs. But then, like, you know, he has a few statements that, again, still might be funny. Like, even just when he says, like, I hate those. And you just see, like, little bits of anger boiling up. I mean, he's, you know, on the surface, you're like, he's doing something for his community. And it's so wonderful and lovely. And, you know, we don't even know how big this community is. You almost get the sense that it's just like a big block that he's just circling, right? But then there is also just such, like, he also exposes his own, like, limited scope. And he talks about how he likes cityscape, but has no room for this thing that we call art on the walls. Like, can you talk a little bit about, like, was that, like, hitting you in the face while you were talking to him? Or do you feel like in editing you were really realizing the depths of, like, I mean, he's talking about so many different things from urban planning to, everything,
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because he, that sort of like dichotomy of aestheticism, is it? I don't know, was something that he passed on to me. You know, I really feel like I walk around looking at things very deeply, partly because I grew up with him kind of always looking at things very deeply, not just like within our home, but out in the world. And then I started to see like, oh, but he's also got some real sort of like control issues. And what's that about? You know, like he's making it beautiful for him and his small little, you know, in his way, whatever he liked. And what are the big problems with that? So I'm not sure I know exactly. I got a little bit off track how to answer that. But I mean, I definitely would see sort of like he's not entirely like doing a good thing out in the world. There's definitely a lot of control. I should also mention that part of my process in finishing this film was not, I don't know if he's here. John Farbrother, are you in the room? No. I had somebody, I sat on the tapes for 11 years, I couldn't face it. When I did at one point, I just looked at that dirty lens and that old footage. I mean, it was like a year before everything went to high definition, and I couldn't really like face it, and I couldn't face, you know, working with this footage of my dad. And so it was a year ago that I had this great editor come along and say, I can really help you try to piece this together. And that was great because he saw a lot of the nuance that was harder for me just because I was so close, you know, with my dad. So he was able to draw a lot of that out. I mean, the dog thing was pretty like on the surface, but yeah, some of the other smaller pieces of it, he was he really pulled out of it. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, and Selina, that makes me think a bit about, you said you often work in the wide and your installations are really large. I don't even know how to phrase this question, but whenever I watch your stuff, I'm always just like, how do you see that? Like, if I think about, because even just what we're seeing in the tortoise video is plenty for me, and you're like, it's bigger, and I'm like, how do you begin to, and maybe talking about the film with your dad's animated stuff, you walk into the space, you see this whole bookshelf and all the things. What starts like saying that needs to move and now this, and then you obviously have to move them all, then take the picture, then move them all, then take the picture. So you're seeing like such, I mean, it's an orchestra. Like, can you describe what that is like?
My process? Yeah, I think it's much more similar to writing music, actually. I don't, none of my films are scripted. So I create in a structure that works for the film. So for example, the film that the tortoise video comes from, which is premiering in the US next week, there the structure was that I said it's going to begin and end in the same frame. I am going to shoot through a mirror. It's going to be about thinking about kinetic sculpture in relationship with painting, in relationship with space. And I have the elements that I animate with. So since 2012, I've only worked with the same material.
Wow.
Like I don't buy any material, and so I'm very, very, very familiar with my tools. And each of the materials that I animate in my stop motions is also, I look at them as actors, even though it's like little pieces of wood that I've been collecting because I can't throw anything out because I can't buy anything and things like that. So I have like I have a vocabulary in essence, like as if I had a big orchestra. And so once I have the structure, then within it, I'm like, well, okay, this animation, I need to get back to the first frame, which is a really difficult thing to do, especially if it takes 18 months. It's like it has to be identical, the loop has to be seamless. And in general, when I shoot, I try to shoot in a way that there's no post-production. So when I take my last frame, the film is done and that's it.
Oh, I wish I
know.
all the time. Sorry,
Every once in a while I make
Just cut out
exceptions where I'm like, okay, now it's time to edit. And I'm like, oh, that's why I shoot the way I work. But ultimately, it's really just kind of like, I think about tone, tempo, structure, texture. They're very kind of musical things I think about, and I think about affect primarily. Like when I want people, the way I want the people to experience my work is to be put into an emotional state, and then that emotional state will resonate individually with every single person, how it resonates for them, and then they will have a feeling, and then they'll have an idea and a thought, and then that is what the film is about for them.
That's lovely.
So which is like instrumental music rather than telling a story, right?
Right. I love that. That's great. Well, and that makes me think about your process as the director on your documentary. It makes me wonder, what does that look like for you on these? This is your first documentary you've directed? Is that what you were saying?
People have seen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, especially when you're like, I can help you with this project, the story starts to build, like, were you like, I'm asking questions, I'm like, where are you in that room? And what did it feel like to be sitting there with those subjects and learning the story as it unfolded in front of you?
You know, I take it back that is not my first documentary that I've directed. That's probably the first documentary that I've directed where it wasn't client work.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I tend to compartmentalize. So, I think the hardest part of this juggle was, okay, I have researchers who want to do research, and researchers and academics, primarily in their particular field, can write and write and write for days and want to do all these fanciful things with words. But we still have to like make a visual product. We still have to tell the story. So juggling that along with our archivist partners, Shorefront, who helped get us all those wonderful images and help us with some of the history. And then you have the people. You know, I'm not from Evanston, but I understood what the situation was. So I'm like, all right, let me make sure, for one, they understand, like, this is, we are here in service of you. In your story, you know, we're following your lead, if you will. Tell us and talk to us about these things. And some of it, for some folks, you know, some of the stuff was still very fresh. The wounds were still very fresh. There was still some turmoil with the school district and what can we say, what can we say, what can we shoot, what can't we shoot. And so, you know, it was probably an interesting joke, a more interesting juggle for me, because this is the first time where this is everyone's first time, right? And so, you know, being present, being, you know, just kind of serving of the story and of the people just made it easy, you know, to how do I create the environment where people are completely comfortable with us being there. And also, yeah, tell me about the time when you were 10 years old and, you know, this girl said this to you, you know. So it was rewarding in that sense, where, you know, we were able to successfully do it and be well received. But even along the journey, when I say it found me, you know, there's a scene that got cut, but we spent time with some elder women who do like a weekly card game, and it's just this whole thing, and it's really cute. And they were telling us about some people that they wish were there. And one of them said, you know, oh, I wish you could meet the so-and-so Wimberleys. And I was like, hold on, time out. That's my mother's maiden name, and it's a very specific name. And I'm like, hold on. So tell me more about Wimberleys. Wait, what? And they named some of them, and naturally I go to Facebook to see. Wow. And we had like 12 friends in common. I was like, oh, I have family here. Oh, wow. I have family here, so this is a big part of why, you know, I'm here, and feel like it was a part of me. But yeah, apparently, you know, migration, you know, folks kind of kept going north. Some went to Detroit, some stopped in Evanston, apparently. Opened churches, businesses, and I had family there, so yeah.
Oh, wow. That must have been a real breakthrough for you.
Yeah, it was totally rewarding, because we were like halfway done, and I was like, what am I doing here? But yeah.
Let me check I have so many notes. Oh my gosh. I'm wondering if each of you could talk a little bit about how your being an educator and being a filmmaker overlap in any way that you see.
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, I love it. I don't know if I have any of my current students in the audience here, but how does it overlap? I mean, it's...
As the sounds of calming water
prepare
you for your answer.
I'm actively in the process of making films right now, and it's really amazing to come into my production class with my students who are actively making films right now and hear about their process and be able to share about my process. And I tell them that no documentary is ever the same. There's no formula for making one. You're running into new problems or hurdles or exciting adventures or whatever, you know, every time you make a film. And so, you know, to be able to teach and then go out into the field and do, and then, you know, sometimes I'm in the field and I'm reflecting on what I'm teaching my students, which might be something that I pulled out of my hat from a learning 20 years ago, but it's like good to have it sort of front of mind from teaching and be able to put it into practice. So I love doing both at the same time. I mean, I feel like it keeps me kind of active on both fronts and present on both fronts.
I would think too that like, sharing this film or talking about this film and the sort of like what you shoot something because you're there and it happens, and then it's not the right time to edit it. Like you're not ready for it. Maybe it's personal or not, but it comes back in its own time. This idea of like the production of making something is not the same as the post-production vibe or the sharing of it or when it's ready.
Totally.
And it's kind of nice to just see that like now is the right time for it. And
Yeah.
it feels like a really current film. Like it's so obviously dated because of the mini DV.
Yeah.
And it's so obviously, I mean, even just like the particular sweater shirt he's
Right.
wearing, like it's not now.
Right.
It's not Chicago,
Yeah.
but it's the city, and it's about like who we are in our communities and how we, present ourselves.
Interact
It's
with our
so current,
community.
totally. And it's even just really exciting. Like to me, it was meant to be shown in this little group of films.
Yeah.
Selina, how about you?
Well, it's a complicated question because I feel like I don't teach what I do because what I do is so specific.
You just have a lot of little Selinas running around if you did that.
But I think it influences, or the teaching to me is, I mean, it enables me to do what I do in the sense that financially it's very helpful that I can work part-time. And still, that is very related to my work. I think it's made me a much better animator. I mean, having to teach just in general means that you have to understand what you're actually trying to teach. And I think until there's a huge difference between doing things in my studio and figuring it out versus trying to communicate it to other people. And that has made me just a better artist all around, I think in a really profound way. But I wonder, I mean, I think in some ways lately, in the last few years especially, I think a lot of what I've been doing with my students, or thinking about with my students and talking about, is just sort of a more expansive way of thinking about where film can be. I think that is sort of, I think I'm pretty unique within the faculty also, that not just thinking about cinema or galleries or commercial applications in a more traditional way, but thinking more expansively, like how can you make things happen for yourself by looking at the world and placing your work. And so that, I think, has been really good for my students.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Raphael.
And hopeful, because I think it's a hard time
Yeah,
to enter this field.
Yes.
I think about this question all the time.
You're like, why am I teaching? No.
Because it's they're always dancing, and depending on the season, one is taking lead over the other. I feel like this project in particular kind of speaks to a certain portion of my life and time that's dedicated to just the academy and teaching and being around young people like I've always taught. I've always been, whether it was in grad school teaching young people, teaching after school programs and all that. So I can't run from it. And I love it. And so being able to have colleagues in academic spaces, whether it's, case studies, research, just all that kind of nerdy stuff that most filmmakers aren't in those rooms, puts me in a unique position sometimes where it's like, Raphael, don't you want to make a movie about the stuff that we're talking about? And I'm like, absolutely, because I find it incredibly interesting. But sometimes, my work and my coursework, a lot of my coursework is centered around race, policy, history, and how they all inform the things that we've been seeing for the last 100 some odd years. They all still work together. Even if I'm working on a film right now about East St. Louis football and its history. So it's about sports, and I'm excited about sports, but I just can't help but orbit around politics and history and race and how these things are always working together. So for me, it's wonderful that I have an opportunity to, take about a lot of stuff that I'm thinking about in class and amongst colleagues and be like, here's a story, here's my written response, as as an academic. I probably shouldn't put that in quotes, but as an academic, it's
I'm
like,
a teacher.
yeah, it's like
for
this,
you guys.
it's like this is how we publish. Come sit down and watch it,
Yeah.
So it's a nice dance.
And I gotta ask, do you feel like you want to check in on the school in 10 years? And I mean, I would just love to see.
So the last check-in I had, honestly, was last week. So the film, speaking of nerdy academic stuff, AERA, a big educator conference. It'll play in LA in April. And we are talking about, what's happening in Evanston, and I think maybe 2 weeks ago, one of the schools closed. Not that school that's opening, but a different school is closing, so that shapes.
In the fifth ward
Not
school?
in the fifth ward.
Oh.
I want to say it's Haven, one of the schools that all the kids are getting bused to. So now they're gonna have to go even further. There are some changes happening with the superintendents again, and it's like if I was filming this right now, I could tell you all the details. But it's a ongoing. I don't want to call it a mess.
Yeah. I mean, it's
But-
no wonder it takes 60 years. It's like first you need to
Yeah.
recognize, you think you do something good, you have to recognize the mistakes in it.
Yeah.
But then also just like jobs are changing.
Yeah.
Like all that superintendent, people leave,
Yeah.
even the wonderful people we meet in your movie, and then it's like, and then these people leave.
look.
And you're just like,
Yeah.
it's a slow moving ship,
Yeah.
the educational system mixed in with politics.
Mhm.
What are you working on now?
I'm working on 2 different documentaries that are both about big finance interfering with medicine. So one is about a nursing home system, really, where there's a lot of private equity ownership in nursing homes, and what happens when you put profit before patients, and it's not good. And we're focusing in particular on an attorney who's really going up and fighting some of these big shell companies, really. And then the other one is about how independent pharmacies are basically kind of being quickly put out of business through an insurance-based system of these things called pharmacy benefit managers that set the prices, and they're often owned by not only the insurance companies but the pharmacies,
Like CVS.
that get the benefit of those. And
Right.
so it's just kind of like what happens to a community
Yep.
when they lose that sort of like first line of defense healthcare that they've relied on for years and years.
I just tried to use like a classic, like not CVS or Walgreens pharmacy in as a location in my film that I shot at the end of the summer. And I sit down and I go into Google and I'm like,
They're
not
very hard to
CVS,
find.
whatever. I'm looking for, I cannot find all the ones I even knew from like 5 years ago in the
Yeah.
Ukrainian village where I lived before. Like they were just like all just gone.
In 2024, I
like
think
wild.
3,000 closed across the
Yeah.
country.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so then I had like 4 choices for like
Yeah.
actual pharmacies, and like I knew that I was casting a white lady, and
Yeah.
so 2 of the choices were in neighborhood, like it was like a black pharmacy with like black products.
I know it.
And like a Latino pharmacy that said like La Familia, or like
Yeah.
something on the wall in the back, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna, that doesn't fit right. I already have my
Yeah.
person cast, and she's from like this white lady from Wisconsin. And so I was like, that's not gonna work. And so I had like 2 choices. Like it was just a really amazing. There were so few, but it was nice. But I happened to find, and it was nice to see the communities that just built their own. They're
Yeah.
like, we need to have this here, and we have very specific needs and products and things made by our community that can be sold in this store. And
Yeah.
I hope that that's the next step. But that's a really interesting topic. to
Hope
me.
so. It's a complicated topic, but we're trying to tell it through some very personal stories of a couple. We found a couple. One's in Wyoming, in like a tiny little town. And yeah, tell the stories like through those communities and through those personal pharmacy
Yeah.
stories, and see what we're missing when we lose that.
Yeah, great. Is it a feature?
Thanks.
Or-
No, I think both of these are going to be shorts. Realistically, it's really hard to get both funding and just distribution for social issue documentary features right now. So
Unless you're
unless
Melania.
you're
Melania.
Melania and Jeff
Millions.
Bezos.
Millions just ready for you.
Yeah.
Selina, what are you working on? Aside from you have this premiere coming up.
She's got a premiere.
I
Did she
mean,
mention that?
It is actually kind of what I'm working on, but
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh yeah, that might be.
no, I am taking a break from animating right now. I'm painting.
Oh.
Is it really big?
It's a giant oil painting.
Is it
yeah.
really?
Yeah, it's really, it's full on. No, but mostly I'm actually really focusing on, the film is an installation, and it's, right now I'm focusing on getting it shown in lots of different places, so. And I've been primarily actually focusing on showing it outside of the US, which is kind of part of how I think about, in general, when I think about my work, I also think about, well, what do I want it to do for me?
Where do I want to go?
And in this case, it's like, right now, I definitely want to not be here so much.
Yeah.
So it premiered in Brussels in September, and then it just was just in Oslo for 2 months in a gallery, and now I'm showing it in Chicago, and then it will go to Switzerland.
And you say it's an installation. Is it a single channel, like one projection on the wall, or do you have objects and things in the room?
So
Do you set
when
up a whole
I
room?
show my work, I generally also have sculptural seating that goes with the work. So
Sculptural seating, so for
Yes.
the audience to sit on.
yes.
Oh, cool.
So in this case, it's, and because I knew I wanted it to travel extensively internationally, I really was thinking about like how I do that. So in this case, it's a bench that is always built by the people who show it, and then there's a woven bench cover, like a really beautiful slip cover that I did in collaboration with the Weaving Mill, which is an amazing place in Chicago that works. It's actually the last industrial loom in Chicago, in the city.
Oh,
And that is run by an artist, but they work with disabled people. And so I asked them if we could use all their leftovers from their productions to make a fabric for me. And that is this covers, and so that gets installed with that. And then the film also comes with a flip book. The film is a flip book, so you can have it this kind of a super huge immersive projection, and then a handheld.
Ooh, we can look at that at the reception. Are you guys ready for this?
I just got it today. I'm super psyched. I have this. This is like, I've been
cool
dreaming of making a flip book for a very long time. And
That's cool.
I found a place that does it in Spain. And I just had 100
Oh,
made.
I can't wait.
Wow.
I'm like already.
It's like my little pocket movie. I'm so excited.
Right.
And the cover is actually a photo of the fabric on the bench.
Oh,
Every film,
Yes.
every film should have a flip book as
Definitely.
It's, you know,
And
just
I
like a
know
really
how to
quick.
do it. So
Yeah.
if you want to.
Raphael, what are you working on
I
next?
wish I had like an artifact
I know.
in my pocket. I didn't even know what's coming. Yeah.
Like a little bit of the dirt from the groundbreaking.
Right, here we go. Yeah, so working on documentary film short right now. Right now, it's a short about the effects of the pandemic on East St. Louis, in particular, in and around high school football, and what that meant for some folks in their careers, and what that meant for the community, and you know, it was more of a thing that we didn't. My co-producer didn't necessarily see at first. It was actually a very resilient community in where everyone thought it was going to tear it apart. So, and plus East St. Louis is a very interesting place with a very rich history. So there's that, and then working on another documentary. This one is a feature. It's about the VAS International Charter Schools with a really, really rich history here in Chicago. Again, this was friends and family of mine being like, you need to tell the story for like the last decade. And so and some of the kids from the school are working together to make a document about, you know, its history, but also like what it means to make, you know, African-centered education. But yeah, I mean, this is another school that had, you know, a 50-year history.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a task, but you know, there are a lot of famous people in and around the founding of the school that have come from the school, and so we think once we get the ball rolling, we'll be able to make it work. So there's that, and then you know, my non-filmmaking academic friends are twisting my arm to write, so I'm writing something.
Write a screenplay? Or no,
like academic
writing, okay. I was like,
yes, journal, nerdy
so resistant
stuff.
right now. You're like, oh.
Make movies, leave me alone. So, yeah, right. So, yep.
It sounds like though you're going to start becoming an expert on like the Chicagoland school
Yeah.
experience and history of. I mean, that's like endless,
It is.
endlessly
Yeah.
complicated.
It
and
is. It is.
Yeah.
I won't call myself an expert yet, but I'm being forced in a direction to really understand even more about, what it means to live in Chicago, neighborhood to neighborhood.
Yeah. That's a cool map that you're building then too. I think you already spoke a little bit about how it was like difficult to edit.
Yeah.
Because it does, you're right. Especially even when you're just there for a conversation, whether it's your dad or not, it can be difficult to like unhear the way you heard it played out and to pull out really special things that someone else might hear from the outside. But I don't know could you talk a little bit more, has he seen it?
No, so he was 85 when I shot that, and I think he was starting to get a little bit forgetful, but about 5 years later, he had pretty full-blown Alzheimer's, and then died at 95. So he died 10 years later.
Oh, wow.
So sadly, he never did get a chance to see it. But he has 10 grandkids and 3 kids, and so, they've all really enjoyed it and, revisiting him in that way. And so that's been really nice and meaningful to have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really funny when you make something about a parent and you're sort of showing their eccentricities or foibles or like,
Quirks.
oh, there's a little bit of a contradiction here in what you're saying, or like, especially the like disliking dogs thing. I'm sure people bristle at such a thing in the audience. But there's something so like, it's like you celebrate those things when they come across in the film like this. Can you talk about like that balance of like making sure you weren't making fun of your dad totally, but like celebrating and kind of like sharing who he was?
Yeah, I think we had a little bit of a distant relationship, so it wasn't hard for me to enter into it with that kind of natural curiosity that I had about this. I didn't understand him, really. I didn't understand how, simultaneously annoying he was about his like neatness and perfectionism, and also trying to turn that into sort of like a good thing, and also being very funny about it along the way. And so I think, I keep getting lost in your questions.
They're complicated.
Yeah. But tell me what you asked again. I'm sorry, and I'll come back around
how
to it.
how did you balance how to communicate who your dad is?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So I think catching him in the process, again, of this hobby habit was a way to sort of get into his personality sideways without like sitting him down and being like, so tell me about you.
Yeah.
What do you like and what do you don't like? And that's, I think especially with memorial videos, that's what tends to happen, that people, they want to hear the history, and those are nice and have their place. But I do feel like this captured his quirky, weird personality in a very sort of skewed way.
Yeah, by watching him work and just letting him be himself and speak naturally. And that's kind of like capturing your dad through his objects.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I always wonder whether it's capturing him or me or what it is. But I know that when I was shooting it, the way that I approached it was me imagining kind of trying to touch everything he touched. And so, like, all the books, like, it's almost like like this last touch and bringing it to life through that. And maybe the things that he had these collections of hats and collections of these. I remember he had a lot of joy in the beautiful silk scarves, and that was like something I just remembered, and it's like, oh, they should have this act. So I think it is a portrait of him, but it's also just a portrait of what materials mean to us, or even maybe the life that things have that we don't even know or feel.
I think we're just about at the time for Q&A.
My name is Misha. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for presenting your films to us. They're really wonderful to see. I have more of a general question, which is just what advice would you give to young filmmakers, as filmmakers, not professors, to consider when we begin our filmmaking once we have the cushion of film school no longer with us?
Once they cut the ropes on the safety net. You're in free fall. Yeah.
Yeah, your network is still going to be one of the strongest assets, and being here, for one, is wonderful. You have this network here, but don't limit it to just this university, because there are other universities in the city of Chicago and around where there are going to be a lot of people in the same boat. I don't know particularly what area of production you're looking to go into, but when you're on set, for someone's production, don't be afraid to expand that network and work on a project at this school, at that school, at this low budget thing. Just it's going to be the network. Of course, it's your skill and being a good person. I want to say that again, and being a good person.
Very important.
It's going to be very important.
Yeah, I would say also kind of don't feel limited by things that you don't have. So when you're in school, you have such a excess of professional equipment and editing suites and people and all those things. I actually think the idea is the key thing. So if you have an idea and you can't do it one way, then you have to find another way. Like you can make a great film with a phone if you need to. If the film is good, it's going to come through. And so I would just say approach making in that way, but also approach screening in that way, because once you have a film, the second problem really is how do you get it to people? And it's not so easy to get it into festivals, and it's not also, there's lots of different ways to think about how can you show it, use the internet. I think social media can be a very double-edged sword, but I think for young artists, it's a huge source. People see what you do and use it to your advantage. Think in that format, like be medium specific.
I think those are two really great pieces of advice. I would add to that, start building your portfolio right now, and that kind of falls in line with just making work, whatever way you can. Just create stuff. I wish I would have edited this. Maybe it is the right time for this film of my dad to have kind of been finished and come out in the world, but I wish I had it 10 years earlier, just to have it like in my pocket and finished as a piece of, I'm mostly a producer, so to have a piece that I directed, 10 years ago would have been nice. So yeah, don't be limited and just make stuff and, build up a body of work.
Thank you for being here. It was great seeing your work. Hearing you speak, it seems like you have a style or themes that you gravitate towards with your films. How long did that take for you to kind of develop that artistic choice around what you work with? And how can we do that for ourselves? I like to say I was raised in a sort of professional setting where the style of making films was very observational. And it's not just what I now gravitate towards, but it's what I really love in terms of being able to tell a very kind of human story. And it's one of the harder ways to try to make a documentary, but for me, it's what I sort of gravitated towards. I think find what you love about whatever style is out there. What you're attracted to is what you'll be most successful at, going on and making yourself.
Yeah, I second that. It develops over time, it changes over time. Nothing is solid. I would say I'm at a very different point than I was when I was at your age, and there are lots of different places in between there and now, and I assume there's going to continue.
Yeah.
It's not static.
Yeah.
That's almost exactly what I was going to say. Like, this feels like just, I don't want to call it an era, but this is the work that is best for me in this way. Years before, not even that long ago, but working as a producer with on indie romantic comedies. St. Francis, DePaul alum, Alex Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
And
You were on St. Francis?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And Ghostlight, and, you know.
Yeah.
And so having my hands in that space is lovely, and it gives me all kinds of great feelings and energy, but it's a total different kind of work than this work. And this work needs me right now. So I don't know, in 5 years, I might be doing something different. So it's, I mean, maybe it is more about what you feel and what's calling you and vice versa, you know. But yeah, just be ready.
Thank you.
Awesome. I think we got time for one more question. Is there someone else there? Hey, Joey.
Hello, I'm Joey. I have a question for our two documentarians. So in making documentaries, you guys obviously take up the charge of representing reality, and reality never stops. You know, these stories keep going even after you decide that you're done with them. And we kind of saw two polar opposite examples of that with the documentaries we saw today. Fennell not, you know, putting the footage together for 11 years after filming it. And Raphael, you were kind of already lamenting that there's so much still going on in that story in the Fifth Ward. So yeah, and it's also interesting because, you know, your subjects are sort of taking up fights where the forces that oppose them are so great that, you know, these fights can never really end. So I guess my question is, how, as documentarians, do you know that you're done with a film and that you're done with the story?
The deadline comes.
Yeah.
I only laugh because I shared this with them earlier, like, today I received our 28-minute cut of the film.
This was what, 36?
This is 36. And this isn't a part of your question, but, you know, the 36-minute version is the version that most of us, it's been a producer fight, we're satisfied with, right? And it's been a tussle. But for programming purposes that we're seeking, we had to make a 28-minute cut. And like literally today, it's like, all right, is everyone okay with this 28-minute cut? But we have a 28-minute cut, so you're forced to stop sometimes. The powers that be stop you. When it comes to, of course, the story itself, we would have loved to continue to tell the story, but we are still very happy that we were able to tell this part.
And there could be a part two.
And there absolutely could be a part two.
Yeah.
Life will let you know,
Yep.
I guess.
A great work of art is never finished. It's abandoned. I'm sure you've heard that before. So yeah, I mean, I think it's often deadlines. I worked on a film for 11 years, and for the last 2 years, we were trying to get it into festivals, and it wasn't until we got it accepted into a festival that we actually, with a rough cut, that we actually managed to really pull it together to finish it in time to premiere at that festival. So I joke about deadlines, but sometimes that is sort of like an enforced endpoint for you. And then often it's just story will dictate when it's over, when it ends, and when it's finished. My dad did not solve the San Francisco graffiti problem.
That's how
But
you
I
know
don't
it's
think
over.
I'll make a follow-up to that.
He paints over the last piece of graffiti in San Francisco, and everyone's just like,
Never again.
yes, cut.
Yeah.
The last
Thank you. That's
piece of
like a
sex.
question about when to end something is a really good last question. And with that, I want to thank you all for your
Yeah,
films
thank you.
and for your conversation.